Boom. What's up? My name is Ian Edwards, and welcome to the Soccer Comic Rant. And everything today happened right before the international break. And so much crazy shit happened so that we could have the whole 2 weeks of the international break to digest it. Like there were red cards flying everywhere. There were crazy games with Man U versus Fulham. There's Bayern lost. Kim Kardashian helped PSG lose. There's more crazy events that happened in the Premier League, and we didn't even get to La Liga El Clasico. So it was just that type of weekend. And thank God Man United won before the break, because you don't want to go into the break 2 weeks with that losing feeling. And I'm sure Lee would understand that, because talk about games of the week. Southampton versus Spurs. Man, I'm glad I'm a neutral, because that was a great meal to enjoy watching that. And so we'll talk about that. Chelsea. Potter opens up his big mouth and we see what happens. Will Conte still be the coach of Spurs by the end of this pod? We don't know. We'll find that out. Hopefully Martin will join and talk to Lee. So maybe we'll talk Man United and Fulham first, and hopefully Neil or Martin will join me and Lee Hudson, stand-up comic, Southampton fan, and we could get into it about that. I was just trying to figure out the order of this thing. So if you're listening, thank you, like and subscribe. If you watch or listen on iTunes, give us a rating and tell us what's up. And we're here, man. And what a weekend, man. How you feeling, fam?
Yeah, it's been a lot of football. I watched the first game of the weekend. I watched Nottingham Forest Newcastle in Barcelona. I was still in Barcelona.
They snuck that
Friday night game.
Yeah, Friday night game. I was like, I watched that. I think Friday night when I realized they snuck that in. But sorry, go ahead.
I watched that in a bar in Barcelona before a show. And
how was that?
Yeah, it was good. St. Paddy's Day, so it was a little bit lively out there. Mm-hmm. Lots of Americans in town pretending to be Irish.
Hilarious.
But no, it was good fun. Yeah, watch the football, then do a show, and then I flew back Saturday. So I landed lunchtime Saturday. So then I got to take in the Saturday games before my stuff in the evening. So I listened to some stuff on the radio and then watching highlights and stuff. So yeah, I've managed to, even though I've been traveling a bunch, I've managed to catch pretty much all the football. So there's been so much happening. Like you say, it's been a crazy weekend. The sort that makes you resent the international break when it comes around, because it's like, oh, now we just get all these games that don't really mean shit. Right. But I think people kind of need a break. Like, I mean, we were talking during the United Fulham game, and like, you mentioned that at the time, like United kind of look like they need a break.
But I don't even think this is a break for us, because most of our players are international. So we get a break as far as not a game every 3.5 days, but our players, except for Varane, who just quit international duty, and who else is not an international? Wan-Bissaka, and Casemiro doesn't matter because he's injured. He's not injured, but he has the red card. So we'll still be, our players, when we come back from this international break, will still be haggard or pretty tired. So yeah, we need a break, like a real break. But
yeah. At least it's a slight break, though. The games are less intensity for the most part, because then things are, they haven't got too much riding on them, and players might not play the full 90 minutes as well. So hopefully they can recuperate slightly.
I hope you're right. Let's go with that. Let's go with that assessment. Like, that'll make me feel a lot better, because I'm worried about my squad getting worn down. I mean, the only good thing is, well, we'll talk about it. So let's start with Fulham versus uh, Manchester United FA Cup. Was this a quarterfinal? Is it the
Yeah.
quarterfinal before the semifinal? And this is the chance to go to Wembley and play someone in the semifinal. And Man United, they're still in all competitions that they are this year, even though we're not in the league. So we're playing Fulham, who's had a really good season. And from the beginning of this match, I'm like, damn, we look lethargic. And they look at it. Because I listened to a Fulham interview yesterday because I had to take a long drive to where I was shooting this short film. And they haven't played in like 7 or 8 days. So Fulham's fresh. We just played midweek, you know? And in Spain, I think that's where we played in Spain. Then we come back and we played 25 games since the year started. So like some people say, hey man, that's an excuse, but you try doing that. You try to run a marathon and then come home and have to raise your kids right after and see if that doesn't affect your parenting or just whatever you got to do. Would you like your pilot to have just flown 3 flights in a day before he takes you on your 4th? All right. So don't be like that. There's a reason why truck drivers have to sleep after a certain amount of time, and it's mandated, or else you get a big lawsuit. Like Tracy Morgan made so much money from his accident because that truck driver had been rested. You have to rest. You have to recuperate. And Man United, we just look lethargic, and Fulham was definitely taking advantage of us. And they have a lot of really good players, like players that can play. Like Willian, Pereira has something to prove because he's an ex-United player. He's been with us for 10 years, and he's really been thriving at Fulham. Paulinho is just a find and a baller, and I wish we had him. And we also have people missing from our team, like our connectivity in the midfield is gone with no Casemiro, no Ericsson, and we're trying Sabitzer and we're trying McTominay, who, McTominay's a Premier League player, but he's probably not a Manchester United player. He's had enough time to like prove that, and he wasn't having the greatest game. He was the first person we subbed out just to validate what I was saying. So Fulham was pretty much on top, and they created chances. We created some chances too, but you could tell we were not at it. Even our fans were not even into the game. And then and at home, I was like, you know what? I don't mind if we lose this. Like, I won't be that crushed. You know what I mean? Because I even forgot that there's an international break coming up. But I was like, our guys have done so much that I can't be hard on them for if we don't get this result. So then, of course, Mitrovic does his thing. I think it was on a set play, gets the ball in the back of the net, and I'm like, damn. But I still kind of want to win it. You know what I mean? I was like, well, we could win this. And then it's the second half. Like, we do things in the second half. We're Manchester United. That's what we do. We do things in the second half. Ten Hag makes a substitution. He gets McTominay out of there, slides Sancho from the right to the left. And then he also has him interchanging with Bruno too. So Bruno sometimes they switch from middle to wing on each other, and we get a fast break, and we put Anthony in there on the right, and he combines with Sancho, who was not having the greatest game. It's like when Sancho got the ball, he did something with it, but he wasn't running back and being defensive or giving you the maximum effort. And that's a no-no for any team, much less a Manchester United. So that's where Sancho was lacking in the game. But in attack, when he had the ball, he was good with it. And this guy has, and there's a lot of fans, they're not happy with Sancho. But there are certain players, they have these qualities that you can't buy. And Sancho in front of the goal is, in a moment of pressure, his quality just takes over. And you ain't going to get this quality just anywhere. You just have to be born with it. I don't know if he trained it into himself or both, but just sat the keeper down, sat the defender down, is about to put it in the net, and William, Neil's ex-favorite player, handball, right? So he
I was
hands
about to say, don't put that shit on me.
yeah,
I've got nothing against the guy.
my bad. So William hands the ball and says, nah, it came off my body. My arm was next to my body, and it just went out. Referee's ready to give the corner. Then VAR is like, hold up, fam. You need to come look at this on the screen. So he goes to look at it on the screen. So what happens is mayhem in the next less than a minute. Like, he goes to look at his screen, and Marco Silva, the Fulham coach, goes to argue with the ref. I think he came out of his technical area. I think he was in the viewing area, which is a no-no, and steps into it, says something, and walks away, as if he knows he's going to get a red card before he's even shown a red card. So the ref shows him a red card. Now, we all already know it's a handball, and once the ref sees that, it's going to be a penalty, and William's going to be sent off. So Marco gets sent off before that, which, after the ref gives the decision, Mitrovic, this is Mitrovic, like, really good guy. He's one of those really good player, right? But he's the type of guy who, like, you ever had bad thoughts in your head, Lee, but you just don't act on them?
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, right? But because there's this thing, the Mitrovic is the guy who barely doesn't act on his bad thoughts, right? He's that guy. He's like, oh man, I want to kick that baby. It's right there. So he'll fight it and he won't kick the baby. But if he sees somebody else kick the baby, he's gonna, fuck it, I'm gonna kick the baby. So he sees his coach get a red and kick the baby. So he's like, fuck it. I guess it's my coach kicked the baby. I guess I could kick the baby. So then the coach, he goes over to the ref, hits him, and starts remonstrating. Red. So now 3 people from Fulham are gone. We're 1-0 down, but we have a 2-man advantage, and we have a coach advantage, and now we're at home. Energy levels go up. You know,
There was
we
about
got
20 minutes, wasn't there, I think, at
with
that
20
time?
minutes left. Yeah. We're like, oh, we could do this. If we don't do this, we ain't gonna do nothing. And I just think Mitrovic wouldn't have gotten that red card if he didn't see his coach. So I blame that on Marco. I think Mitrovic's reaction was not to William being sent off, it was to his coach being sent off. I think he knew William was going to be sent off. And I think everybody knew that once he walked to the ref walked to the monitor, but I don't think they expected the coach. And the coach was mad because he claims Bruno should have got a red and there should have been a penalty for Fulham earlier on in the game. Fine, but you're a football coach, Marco. You've seen this happen for you and against you in other games, and you just have to take it. It's just a part of the sport. And listen, like, somebody made an analogy in this game about the Suarez handball in the World Cup and compared it to Williams. But the thing that Uruguay, was it Uruguay that Suarez plays for? I think it's Uruguay. Mm-hmm. Like, his team calmed down. They took the red and they took the handball because the ball didn't go in the back of the net. Then the penalty got missed and they won the game. And you can win a game with 10 men, especially when you're 1 goal up. So all Fulham had to do was chill. And they had no chill, and they were unprofessional, and the most professional team won. Because even though we were down 1, we didn't panic. And Sancho did not panic in front of the net with people diving in front of him. He took his time and placed it, and there was a handball. And from that moment on, we took over the game. Bruno scored the penalty. Sabitzer got his first goal for Manchester United. And Bruno, again, I think, put the game away because I did think that we needed another goal. And we are through to Wembley. And if you can't win at Old Trafford, you don't deserve to go to Wembley, Fulham. Sorry, that's what it is. What did you think of this madness?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fairly, mundane-ish game prior to everything kicking off. And, Fulham, like you say, you guys looked a bit tired. Fulham were good value for their lead. Mitrovic pulled a great save out of De Gea as well with that header, where it could have been two. But then, yeah, I mean, because Mitrovic, he's always been the sort of guy who had that in him, because he used to get a lot of red cards. But he
Yes.
kind of seemed like he'd calmed himself down and became a bit more professional this season. Because he used to be, yeah, like I say, yellows and reds all the time, and then he kind of, yeah, he'd not been in any big trouble for a while. But this was like the old Mitrovic coming back. It was something obviously just snapped in his head, because, I mean, you can't do that shit. It's you can't put hands on a referee. You might be able to get away with like putting a hand on their shoulder or something, but even then, that's not going to go well. But to sort of throw like an elbow in and sort of shove whatever the hell that was, yeah, you're just like, that's a guaranteed red card.
You could get away more with hitting a woman than a referee. You can't. You ain't supposed to hit either of them. Like like a woman will get in trouble if she hits a male referee. Like you just can't do it, bro. You just can't.
Yeah, it was just crazy. Like, obviously something, his head had completely
on the
gone at that point.
endangered. Referees are on the endangered species list. You cannot touch them, bro.
I just don't know what was going through his head, because it's like, well, it's like nothing's like, you need calm heads in those situations, because like you say, it wasn't at that point. Willian getting sent off and them getting a penalty isn't irretrievable. They could have banked up with 10 men and gone, right, we're going to defend this and try and see the game out. And 10 men is hard to play against. 9 men though is easy to play against. There's going to be holes.
Yeah.
You're going to find them, and you guys did, like, you did what you needed to do in that moment. The opportunity was there and you took it, which is what good teams do. So, even though you were a little bit off color today, and like I say, I can understand that, because that schedule has been brutal. Just every 3 days there's been a game, and they've been intense games as well. You had a cup final against Newcastle, you had 2 legs against Barca, who are flying at the top of La Liga. Every league game has been crucial, because you're trying to cement your place in the top 4 and make sure you definitely get Champions League next season. So yeah, to have that run of games is brutal, and with the injuries you've had as well, with a couple of key players missing. So and you've done.
Ericsson been gone so long, I forgot he played for us. Somebody said his name the other day. I said, oh shit, that's who's missing.
I mean, he's been doing such a key job for you guys as well when he was there. Like, it turned into a real, important player for you guys. And Sabitz has come in and done well, but I don't think he offers you quite what Ericsson did. He's not quite as technically dynamic as Ericsson. He's maybe a little bit more mobile, a little bit more aggressive, but kind of a different type of player. So yeah, you've done well to come through this. I mean, you've even got away with starting Harry Maguire back-to-back games against Betis and now Fulham, and you've come out with 2 wins. So that's it's a big positive, for sure. Although, to be fair, he's improved it, I think. And Ten Hag was singing his praises as well before the game, saying that he's shown a good attitude, and he was a leader against Betis in that game. So yeah, I mean, you've done well, and like I say, hopefully some of your players can get a rest in the international break. But it's it's job done. And you guys got Brighton, didn't you? I think.
Yeah, we got Brighton, which is not
in the semi-final. That's going to be a good game at Wembley as well.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but the bright notes about that is Casemiro will be back, and Ericsson, I think, who was supposed to be scheduled to be back in May, is going to be back in April now. So hopefully he'll be in playing form, and that our midfield will be back. You know what I mean? We'll because we're going to need everything to beat Brighton. Brighton is not no pushover team. Like, they're the real deal. You have to put respect on Brighton's name. Them not ramp. This is their only chance to win something. I think they can win a European spot. So yeah. So we got them. We can go over some some other FA Cup score because until other people join, like Neil and Martin said he's taping something, but he'll join at 5:30. But so we thought this match was going to be a big contest. This other FA Cup match, Man City versus Burnley, but Man City just basically jumped Burnley into the Premier League. You know, when you're an LA gang member, you have to get stomped in to be a part of the group. And Burnley is about to be qualified and be promoted to the Premier League. And Man City said, all right, just take this stomping. And they just stomped on them 6-0. Just like Vincent Kompany, the coach of Burnley, ex-Man City player, brought Man City style of play to Man City. And Man City was like, no, man, Vincent, there's levels to this shit. And they pretty much handled them easily. And let me know if you see. Go ahead.
So that was a really interesting game because I think Burnley have had it quite easy in the champ. Not easy. They've obviously earned their position in the championship, but they've been quite comfortable in terms of winning games and the form they've been in. And I think that's a good reality check for them, that game, because it will tell Kompany where the holes are in his team potentially. If they do come up, what positions of the field he might need to strengthen in, and also maybe a wake up for him tactically, because he didn't really try and do much different. He played his normal team. He tried to go out and have a go at City, and City were like, nah, we're too good for that shit. Like, they didn't really rest many players. They switched the keeper out. Obviously Ortega came in goal, but the rest of the team was strong. Like, they went for it. And I mean, like I say, sometimes you can't go there and have a go at City. You can't press them high when you've only got championship players, because they're going to pick you off and find the gaps, which they did. Obviously, hat trick for Haaland. Foden was on form, just setting stuff up, and De Bruyne as well. So yeah, it's a kind of light work for City, and a reality check for Burnley before they step back into the Premier League next season. Because I'm pretty certain they're going to be part of it.
Yeah, which is good for them and also bad for them. Good because now they know what the difference is between the league they're in and the one they might be in. But it also might scare them when they come up next time, or depending on how good a coach Vince is, he'll have to figure out a way how to deal with teams like this when he comes up, or just everybody in the Premier League, period, because you don't want to come up and go right back down. So shit, you might see the old Burnley the next time they come up. They might just change back to, hey, this is how you play. You play like Man City when you're trying to get out of the championship, but you play like old Burnley when you're trying to stay in the Premier League. So he has to figure that out, because like they played us in either I think it was in a League Cup game, and I think they weren't that difficult when we beat them. It's like right after the World Cup, and I was thinking about this game before they played it, and I was like, if we beat them so easy, I think City should crush them, and they did. And I just never said, and I'm mad I didn't say it out loud, because now I see the result, and it's one of those things I could have just got some cool points for. Yeah.
Although, like with City as well, though, like anyone can catch one of those off City. Even good Premier League teams can catch one of those off City sometimes.
Yeah, we got one. Yeah.
Like Leipzig caught one off them in the Champions League as well. So, it's not to say that this Burnley team won't survive if they come back up, and I'm sure they can take points off plenty of people if they do come up. So, it doesn't mean that they have to change their whole situation if they come up, but it's never a good a good thing to get a 6-0 beat in.
Yeah. And then there was Sheffield United versus Blackburn Rovers. Sheffield United goes through, but a problem with Sheffield United going through is that they get to play Man City. And I think two of their best players, including the winning goal scorer, are loanees from Man City. So they won't even be able to use two of their best players against City, who beat Burnley, who is above Sheffield in the table. Sheffield's in the championship too, right?
Yeah, Sheffield United.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So good luck, Sheffield. Like playing, you know, Man City without two of your best players. I don't know if you have anything to say about that game or
yeah.
that
I mean,
result.
Sheffield United obviously, they beat Wrexham, they beat Blackburn today, and before that they beat Tottenham. So they've been beating, a lot of easy teams.
I see what you did
um,
there, bro.
no, obviously, they have knocked a Premier League team out in Tottenham. So,
Hilarious.
yeah, they deserve respect. They've battled anyone that battles all the way through to the semis. You have to have overcome some adversity, and they have done so. It'll be interesting to see how they set up against City, because I don't think they'll have a go like Burnley did. I think they'll come to defend and try and be organised, and it'll be a test of their credentials as to whether they can do that enough to stop the firepower that City have, because Wembley's a big old pitch, and I'm sure based on the team he put out against Burnley, I'm sure Pep will put out, depending on, unless the Champions League game falls right around then, because they've got Bayern, haven't they? I think in the next round. We haven't talked about the draw yet. They've got Bayern. So and unless the semi-final is sandwiched in between the Bayern games, Pep will be going all out, and I think he'll put a strong side out again. So that'll be a real test for Sheffield United.
So Sheffield United, their advantage is to pray that the date of this game is right before or after the sandwich in between the Bayern Champions League legs that Man City have to play. So that's their only hope. Yeah.
I'm just having a look at the schedule. They're actually just after. So City schedule, they've got Liverpool on the 1st of April, and then they've got us a week later. So they actually do have a week where they don't have any midweek games, but then after us, they play Bayern 3 days later, then 4 days later, they play Leicester, then 4 days later, they play Bayern again, and then it's 3 days after they play Sheffield United. So the Bayern game's going to be done by the time they play Sheffield United.
Right. I think he might field his easiest team because he's going to put most of his best players into the Bayern game. So it might work out for them. Yeah.
But
it's
if they get knocked out
against
Bayern, he'll probably put all the big guns in for this one to win, to win something else.
So everybody in Sheffield right now are Bayern fans, or Man United, or Man City fans. They're rooting for Man City to do well against Bayern, so they don't come in all angry. And then, did you guys lose to Grimsby, or did Spurs lose to Grimsby?
No, Spurs lost to Sheffield United. We lost to Grimsby, unfortunately.
So are you happy about this revenge exacted on Grimsby by Brighton, this 5-0 pounding, or you're indifferent?
No, I'd have liked Grimsby to knock Brighton out too, because then I could go, oh, well, look at Grimsby. They're knocking all the good teams out. The fact that Brighton made such light work of them made me feel even worse. I'm like, we could have beaten that fucking team if we'd showed up that day. We were just very, very bad against Grimsby, and they wanted it. So, but Brighton obviously showed them the levels and showed them that it was maybe a game too far for them. And just comfortable from them to just roll them over like that, because Grimsby been causing teams problems. Again, they made it to the quarterfinals by being a good team and being hard to beat, and Brighton just rolled them over.
I mean, Brighton just basically gave them the stiff arm, and Brighton were playing a lot of players I've never even seen before. I was looking at some of the names on the back of those jerseys, so they were experimenting. They threw in some youth or some fringe players, and they still got that result. So they still had a lot of their main players like Matoma and stuff in there, and that kid Ferguson, he's played Premier League games with them, but his touch was mad impressive in this game. Like he was getting the ball in between players and calm as shit and putting the ball in the back of the net. So yeah, man, like that's a guy to look forward to. Again, Brighton strikes again. They got somebody else that nobody has, that nobody ever really heard of until you seen him play for Brighton, and you could see that he got skills. And their scouting department or youth system or whatever they do, or both, is legit. We'll run through some Premier League games. and see if anybody joins us, and then we'll just have to start talking about some of the stuff we're holding back from. So Villa beating Bournemouth 3-0. We just mentioned that, so good for Villa. They're just in a stable part of the table and they're getting results. So this is a funny game. So when I was watching the Southampton versus the Spurs game, by the time your game got to 3-1, I was monitoring the Wolves game score in the top of the screen. And I was like, damn, I watched the wrong game, because both games came on at the same time. I was like, damn, I watched the wrong game, and it's too late to have watched the Wolves Leeds game, because there's no way I would have guessed what happened in the Wolves Leeds game would have happened. So Leeds went up 1, then they went up 2, and it's like the second half, and I've seen Leeds blow leads in games. Like, they blow more leads than Bournemouth. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm root for Leeds because of the American players on Leeds. And even though they fired Jesse Marsh, I'm like, let me give him a chance still, because they still got the American players. So then when I saw them go up 3, I was like, whew, they got this. But then Wolves gets 1 goal, and then they get another goal. So I'm watching the ticker in the right-hand top part of the screen. I'm like, shit, I should be watching this game. And then it goes to 4-2 Leeds. And then it goes to 4-2 Leeds, red card, 4-2 Leeds, double red card. I'm like, what the fuck is going on in that game? But also, so I was like, I should have watched it, but at the same, and that's, but during that time, that's when the Spurs Southampton game became a game, because I thought the Spurs Southampton game was over at 3-1. I was like, Southampton put up a fight. Fine, this is over. Spurs might get another one and make it 4, but then the big comeback, which we're going to hold off on. So I'm glad I did eventually watch that I did watch the Southampton Spurs game. But yeah, that was a pretty good to see Leeds win. I want them to stay up. Even though it affects you, but I think you'll be all right. You're getting points. You don't look depressed and sad like you did a few weeks ago. I could tell by your vibe that you're happy with this point against Spurs. So and just overall, your last few games, like, your coach has, I think he's 2-2 since he got there in the Premier League. So that's good for him. So so we'll see. But let's talk about Arsenal, Crystal Palace. And here's my question to you. I didn't look into this. I was going to ask you, why did Crystal Palace fire Vieira? They were 12th in the table when they fired him.
Yeah, but there was the gap to the relegation battle was getting very small. He hasn't won a game in 2023. Their last win came last year. And he's playing players out of position. The game's just been bad. Like, none of the Palace fans that I know, and I know a few, wanted him to stay. They were all like, yeah, his time's up. And they just couldn't see it turning around, because game after game was coming and there was just nothing improving. And like I say, if you're in March, if you're in mid-March and you've not won a game since 2022, then that shit's going to happen. It's the Premier League. You can't go that long without delivering something. And like I say, he was playing players who just weren't doing it and just not really giving anything tactically. And yeah, none of the Palace fans I knew were surprised or sad about it. They liked him as a guy and they appreciate he did some good stuff when he first went in there, but last few months, like, nah.
I can't help but think this is kind of racial. You're a black coach, you're 12th, you're Patrick Vieira. I just don't see them really firing. I don't want to always go to race, but this is just bananas to me. Like, they're so 12th, they lost today and they still 12th. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then
12th is misleading though. Like there's only 3 points between them and the relegation zone.
I get it, but I get it. Like, I'm looking at it, but why don't Wolves just fire Lopetegui? Why don't Forest fire Steve? You know what I mean? Like, Leicester just fuck it, fire. What's his name? Who cares if he won them an FA Cup? Why don't Bournemouth fire their guy? It's like so many people didn't fire their people, and this guy gave Crystal Palace a great finish last year, and it's just like, I mean, I don't know, it's weird to me, but I get it, and I'm not going to ignore the other factors like you said, but it's weird. So then I like Vera, and there's a lack of black coaches. So when Arsenal got in their ass today, I was like, good for Arsenal. You know what I mean? They got me rooting for Arsenal. And then especially when they said, let's call up Roy Hudson. Like, that's a bad look. You're going to fire me for the guy who quit and was older than the Queen and give him the job back? And you think that's progress? And I had an attractive style of play and we were going for it. And listen, when you go for it, you're going to lose some games. You're trying to, you develop a style of play. Like, Brighton Hove went for it, like, in their first years of Potter. And they had to figure it out and become the Brighton that's 7th now. So you're going to fire a guy that's kind of going for it. You want to go get Hudson and everybody just fall asleep in their half of the pitch and just like rebound the ball back into the opponent's half? Good luck. I do hope you go down. I'm not a fan of that. Like, at least say a better name than Roy Hudson, who did great for them. But come on. That's what. Let me just say, that's what led me to believe this shit is a little racial. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's a strange move that they do get Hodgson back, because it's just it's a step back into the past. The last job he had, he got Watford relegated because he went in there when they were in a relegation battle, and it's I find it strange that that's the first name they would go to. Like it's lazy, it's backwards. And they might say some of the players still and stuff, but it's like, well, but he's not working there for a reason. Before, like, they fired him for a reason. So just kind of a bizarre move if they do go for him. But apparently there's not a great deal of managers out there at this time of season. So yeah, they could have given Vieira a chance, or it'd be interesting to see if they do bring anyone else in. Let me just have a look and see what other names are being put in the run-in by the bookies, because they normally have an idea of who might be out there. Wouldn't surprise me if Hasenhüttl's name's in there. But yeah, Roy Hodgson is a pretty much a done deal according to the bookies. It's the odds are way longer, and the second favourite is Paddy McCarthy.
A done deal, meaning like he's the leading. Like, it's not even a joke. It's for real, for real.
Yeah. According to the bookies, he's like you could put money on it, and if he got appointed manager, you'd barely win anything. Like, they're saying it's almost certain, which is insane to me.
All right, let's talk about. Let's big up Arsenal and this ass whooping that they thrust down upon Crystal Palace today, because man, human traffic cones. That's what they turned Crystal Palace players into. Like, Arsenal zipped that shit around. Like Crystal Palace was like, coach was like, it's his first day playing Xbox and against somebody who's had all the Xboxes and played all the versions of FIFA and plus other football games. Like they look pretty dynamic today. And I still can't say Arsenal's going to win the title until they win the title because there's this professional bunch of dudes that played the FA Cup game today and dismantled Burnley. And there's some guy you might have heard of named Pep Guardiola is their coach, and they come from a place called Man City. So, and we've seen Man City catch teams, so I can't say it, but this Arsenal team is pretty impressive. Like we're doing better as a team, but we're doing better, but not in all the areas where they're doing better. Like they're doing better in all the areas, in their pressing, in the passing the ball out to back, in their build-up play, in their transitions, and in just how they look with the ball. With the ball, they just got everything covered. They look so good, like just with or without the ball, but especially with, man. And some of these plays and passes that they drew up today, it looked like an alien crop circle from the sky level if you watched it. And yeah, man, they killed Crystal Palace pretty much. They
Could have been slightly different if that. Do you see the Zaha shot that came off the post and hit Ramsdale and could have gone in, and then just went out for a corner because that was at 0-0, I think.
Right.
And if they pinch a goal, all of a sudden it could be different. But I still think that Arsenal team would have turned it round because they're just on form. Like Saka's just unreal right now. He's unstoppable. He's showing everyone that he's going to be a great. Like it's insane that he's still I think he's only just turned 21. So he's got another decade or so of stuff to give. So
if he doesn't end up dating Kim Kardashian.
he doesn't want anything to do with that curse. Who knows?
She came to see him when they lost to Sporting midweek. That was the problem.
I'd be getting a restraining order if I was him now. Like you can't come within a certain amount of feet of any stadium that I'm in. Like, you don't want any of that.
I'd pretend to be other teams. If I'm playing a team, I'm buying her a ticket to come see the other team and giving her a jersey of that other team and making her think that team invited her. And that's a jinx to make them lose so we can win. Like, she's the best bad luck charm a team could hire.
But I mean, yeah, he was balling out today, and Martinelli, his goal, the first one that set it off, was such a good goal as well because the cross came in like a little bit behind him, but he took the touch, went past the defender, and then that finish was unstoppable. Just rocketed it across the keeper, perfect finish. And when Xhaka pops up with a goal in the box as well, that Arsenal are on form because he doesn't score that often, but he popped up as well. So. Just a job done from Arsenal. They'll be a little bit disappointed they didn't keep the clean sheet. I'm a little bit disappointed because I've got Gabriel in my fantasy team and he didn't get a clean sheet. But I think a lot of people have got him or Saliba, so don't really lose out there. But 4 goals says it all. They keep the pressure on City to try and catch them because they're just churning out the wins at the moment. And like I said on the last pod, I don't think going out the Europa League will do them too much harm because it just means their players are going to be that little bit fresher, and they don't need to rotate as much. And they're looking strong right now. Everything about them says that they can do it. So I'm starting to believe that it might be their year.
I mean, it is their year, but I just don't know if it's that much of their year for them to win the title. I do know one thing, that you play Thomas Partey, your chances of winning a game goes up exponentially, Arteta. So play Partey, you played him today. Arsenal even put Holding in. That's how much they believe in Partey. They're like, we could play Holding because we got Partey back. So yeah, and they still won that game. So yeah, man, Arsenal, like, and they just come out on fire all the time. It feels like, how do you consistently like rile up a team to be ready like this? Like, I've never seen a team, not even Man City, starts games this ready every game. You know what I mean? You know how as the seasons progress, you might be like, it's easy to rest on your laurels. But I guess the sound of Man City behind them is almost a part of what's coaching them too. Like, it's Arteta and the hooves of City. It's like, we can't fuck around. We gotta get in this. Like, we gotta get these points. Let's do it. Like, let's not waste no time. So maybe City will help Arsenal win a title. Who knows? Let's get into your game. Southampton versus Spurs. One of the games of the weekend, man. Proud of you guys of what you did. Thanks for entertaining me. How did you feel like about the game and just all the moments? Because I know there was probably a moment or two when you had the knife on your neck, the butter knife on your wrist. So walk me through this.
I mean, first of all, the Brentford game that I went to, I think I spoke about it on the last pod a little bit. The Brentford game I went to last week was terrible. We were poor in that game. We didn't have a single shot on target. We were bad. We couldn't defend set pieces. We were just bad. So I didn't have that much confidence going into this. The only confidence I had was that it's Spurs and there's always a fuck up potentially coming with Spurs. So we actually started the game pretty well. We created a couple of good chances. We were playing high energy. We were pressing, we were trying to cause them problems. Sellers switched it up tactically from the Brentford game. He made a couple of changes. I was impressed with how we started the game. We were on the front foot. The only problem was because we were trying to get at them so aggressively and we were playing quite narrow, it meant that we were switching off a little bit sometimes when the ball got switched. And, the ball went out to Son. Players tried to get around him to try and stop him from doing anything. He opened up and just saw that there was a massive gap on the far side, switched the ball out to Pedro Porro, who he didn't fuck around with that finish. He rocketed that in off the bottom of the bar. No
it's like
messing.
the Rashford goal against like Betis, like just roof, straight roof, bro. Rocket launcher.
And at that point, I'm thinking, here we go. We're going to crumble. I wasn't feeling good in that moment.
Right.
But then, second half. Also just to mention that it was a crazy first half. It was the earliest that two teams had to substitute players both in a game.
Yeah.
So Richarlison was injured like almost straight off the bat. He went off in tears, and then we lost Bella Kotchap, who fell on his shoulder. I think he might have dislocated it. So he went off. So we've lost one centre-back, and then Bednarek got injured. We've lost two centre-backs. So both our starting centre-backs, we only had one centre-back on the bench.
Did you lose Bednarek or gain losing Bednarek? Like, how do you see that?
At that point, we'd already brought on the one centre-back we had on the bench, which is Salisu. So Salisu had already come on. So we had to put Maitland-Niles on, who is not a centre-back. He's a centre midfielder or a right back.
Why was Salisu on the bench? How come Salisu is better than Bednarek all of a sudden? How come Bednarek is better than...
I prefer Salisu to Bednarek, but the manager doesn't. Bednarek's a little bit more experienced and he talks a bit more on the field. So I think that's why he's been playing. But for me, Salisu's just a better Premier League defender, in my opinion. But he did well when he came on, Salisu, and then Maitland-Niles came on at centre-back and he did a job. And we got the goal back just after half time. Walcott gets played in.
I was like, this just started. That was. Go ahead. Sorry.
But I mean, it was a great through pass from Lavia to find Walcott, and then Walcott he'd been getting in good positions all game, but he hadn't really been doing much. His final ball or his finish was always poor, but this time he put the ball in early. Shea Adams tried his hardest to miss it. He tried.
So disrespectful. You are so disrespectful to the guy that helped get your point, bro.
I mean, he was in the middle of the 6-yard box and he somehow managed to hit the post and get it in. Like I say, he tried his hardest to miss that shit, but he put it in. I'm grateful to him for it.
Thank you.
But then after that, they went 3-1 up, and I thought, Spurs going 3-1 up, it's a big ask to come back from that. They've got confidence, they've scored their goals. Harry Kane's got on the act, and I was thinking, okay, this, I think I even put in the chat, I was like, as soon as the third goal went in, I was like, that's it, game over.
Right.
And then Martin got cocky. Martin got cocky in the chat, especially towards you and to Neil. He said, Man United, Chelsea, take note. This is how you beat Southampton. Obviously, we beat Chelsea and drew with you guys recently. And then, Martin basically set a curse in motion, is all I can assume from that, because all of a sudden, Theo Walcott, who's been getting booed all game by the Spurs fans because of his Arsenal connections, he obviously assisted the first goal. He then goes and scores the second goal with the loose ball in the box, and he's, Mara's nodded it down, and then he just got there first. And I think he was quite composed in that moment, because there was a whole bunch of bodies in front of him, and the goalkeeper's like flying out at him, and he was composed enough to just open his foot up and find a corner, which was using all of his experience there. And then 3-2, I'm thinking, maybe we could get back in this now. And then Maitland-Niles did well to get across the front of Sarr and put his body on the line and take the hit. It's a little bit of a harsh penalty because he doesn't really know that he's coming, and he's just come across the front of him, and he's already swinging for the ball. But I mean, I'm not going to complain. We need all the help we can get right now. So I'll take that. And interesting dynamics on the penalty.
You owe that ref a check.
I'll ask Barca to sort it out. They seem to be in the habit of paying referees right now. So but no, I mean, it was a pressure penalty, and Ward-Prowse played with Fraser Forster for years, so he probably took a million penalty kicks against him on the training field. And he's a big keeper, he's imposing, he's got a lot of reach. They were neighbours as well. There's two of them. They used to live next door to each other. And I think the amount of guts it took from Ward-Prowse to put that penalty where he put it, like he knew he had to go high, because Forster's a big dude, and if he dives and the ball's low, he's making it. Like you can't beat him like to the sides, because he's got the reach.
When I saw that penalty, I was like, he took that penalty like it was a free kick. He did not take that penalty like it was a penalty.
I just thought he was another 10 yards out. But he put it where he had to put it to beat Forster, because he's not going to be able to get up there if you put it up there with power. And it was a perfect penalty kick in a pressure moment, especially given that he's missed a couple of penalty kicks this season as well. So big moment, and that's what you want a captain to do, is to step up in that moment and put it in the net. So he did that. I thought we deserved the point as well, the way we played. I think we deserved something from the game. We had we created a lot. We made the chances. We had more shots on target than them. And bad luck Spurs. You got we're not quite the same team we were early in the season now. Like, if you want to beat us, we're not going to fully hand it to you on a plate. You need to come and actually earn it, and Spurs didn't do enough to earn it. And
get in there, Lee. Confidence. All of a sudden, this is not the same guy. This is not the same attitude towards the same team that I'm hearing right now. Get in there, Lee. If you want to come and beat us, you got to come down to Oak Street, and we're going to stand you up. It's confidence.
Well, that's it. We're making teams work for it now, and I don't care if we go down.
It made us work for it.
Yeah, like I don't mind if we go down like that. The problem under like Jones, for example, was just how we were rolling over teams, and that's still not fully out of our system because of the Brentford game I went to during the week. But that might just be because I was there, and they've been bad every time I've watched them play this season. But and then I mean, I just really enjoyed Conte's meltdown afterwards. That was pure box office. Just hook that up to my veins. I love that shit. It was just
hilarious.
Like that was like when you see someone trying to do suicide by cop. That's what that felt like when someone's just he was trying to get fired with that interview. Like, I mean, he's checked out for the season. He's like, I want to go home to Italy and sit by Lake Como and eat some pasta or something. Like he's done. He knows he's going in the summer. He knows that contract is not getting renewed. He's going, and I think he's almost kind of like, fuck it, I'll go now. Like, you know, I've got nothing to prove to these motherfuckers. I want to go home.
I was like, I thought they fixed his gallbladder, but apparently not. Like, he still seems to be suffering from something, and he's blaming it on maybe Spurs is his gallbladder problem. Mark, what do you think about the post game press conference by your boy?
Well,
like, how do you feel as a fan?
I'll tell you in a second. Let me just say a few words about the game. I agree with Lee. You were equally at our level, or maybe even better at some points of the game. Although I think we pretty much threw it away at the end. And Fraser Forster was definitely he's not a goalkeeper at the level of Tottenham. I mean that was another bad performance from him, especially the first goal. I blame him for this first goal because he stayed in the goal for way too long, and he could have prevented it. Then I think the second goal he could have done better, and of course penalty. First of all, shouldn't be a penalty, but still that doesn't mean that you didn't deserve a point. You did, although the penalty wasn't the penalty. And it was a bad last 15 minutes. And the result itself isn't that bad if you think that Chelsea lost twice to Southampton this season and Man U just drew against Southampton, and we did win first game, drew the second one. I mean, that's okay. Southampton plays better against better teams. You know, like we can talk, Lee, and, you know, like quite objectively, why it must be frustrating for you why you guys show promise against teams that are, you know, like superior on paper, and you concede points to teams who are at your level, right? Because that seems to be a pattern. It has to be frustrating, because if you play that at that level, you played against Chelsea, Man U, and us every game, you wouldn't have to worry about staying up. But we'll get back to it. With the conference, I'll tell you this. We live in a world where social media dictates a lot of narrative. Headlines dictate a lot of narrative, and sometimes you might be confused because you don't get the full message, right? So at the beginning, I was pretty mad when I heard what happened, and I listened to some, you know, opinions. But then I listened to the actual press conference, and it put a completely different light to it. You know, like when I actually listened to the press conference, what he was saying, I don't think it's aimed at the club as people, like as journalists, media, and social media made it to be. It's more his frustration at the players. And he did it pretty much at every single club he worked at, including Chelsea, including Juventus. He does have those rants, you know, where he pretty much discredits his own players. That's a pattern with him. He's a very passionate guy, emotional guy. And he does that with players. Sometimes with specific players, and I think he meant Richarlison in this case. I think that was directed mainly at Richarlison because of their back and forth in the media. So I think that triggered it, and he substituted him at half, and there was bad chemistry between them. You can tell, and I don't think Richarlison will play again for him. So it was, in my opinion, blown out of proportion that it was directed at the club. Nevertheless. He's done a good job so far at Tottenham, in my opinion. He was an upgrade over Mourinho, and he did a better job than Mourinho, though not quite as good job as Pochettino in his early time. So if they decide to move on, it will be based on the fact that he didn't improve the team as much as everybody hoped. He did improve, but not as much as everybody hoped. And he brought a lot of assistance. He spent quite a bit of money for transfers, including Richarlison's transfer that didn't pay off completely. And he will be judged by that. So I would say it depends who we can get. If, as rumored in the media, Thomas Tuchel is an option to be the next manager and they have a chance to hire him, I think they will go for it probably.
Oh, that's why you like the press conference, because of that.
No, I like the press conference because the players have to hear it sometimes. You know, we live in the world where you cannot say anything about the players, and sometimes you have to.
Can he just say that in the locker room?
You know what? Sometimes you need to send a message. I remember Trapattoni in the 90s. There was a very famous press conference when he bashed completely the whole Bayern Munich team he coached. Like, he said things. And you know, sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have
So
to.
you agree with him, Allen Iverson, when talking about practice?
But you know who was the master of bashing his own players, but in a very subtle and intelligent way, but he was playing with the media, that game of bashing players? Phil Jackson, he was the master of it. He did it all the time. All the time. But I think
he won shit though.
Yeah, he did. I mean, Conte did too, not at Tottenham, but he did in his career, right?
But it also sounds like some some reputation self-preservation, like some of the stuff that he's saying. It doesn't seem like he's trying to help it. Like, listen, I only heard the bad parts. So I know the media and social media take stuff out of context and it's like, this is juicy, let's put this. But tell me how saying this club hasn't won anything in 20 years was taken out of
part of
and also tell me why he was being so nice and only said 20 years. Because it's been longer.
Yeah, I mean, that was a part of the sentence. It was kind of in the middle of his rant. So when you hear to the whole conference, that's not actually what's the main. That's now how it's within the whole context. What he said in that rant, it's not really the way it feels when you take it out of the context. In the context, he means the mentality of the players. He means the mentality of the players. He was talking about the
I get that.
Players. That the players at Tottenham, the players that are there, haven't won for a long time. That's why they don't have that mentality. They don't know how to win, So he didn't direct it as at the owner, as the journalists, the media made it to be, but he spoke more about the mentality of the players, that they don't have that mentality of the winning mentality. So he was talking about the players' mentality, but he didn't say specifically about the owner, which some
he did mention the owner though. He did say that it's been the same owner. He literally said it.
Listen to the whole conference. That's not the way he said.
This is Neil joining us. I gotta listen to that press conference because the parts I heard.
No, I think I agree with Martin's point. Like I think it's totally fair for him to mention the players' mentality, right? Because this group of players haven't won anything. But when you mention 20 years, you're not talking about just this group of players, right? You're talking about the club as a whole. So
yeah, but that was kind of hidden in the middle of the sentence. So it didn't seem that when you take it out and put it on the headline, it looks differently than it's actually when you hear the whole conference. When you hear the whole conference, you hear him constantly bashing the players. They don't have ambition, they don't have desire. And he mentioned it 5 times. It's 11 individual on the pitch. It's not a team. He said it like 5 or 6 times. So
yeah, he definitely went at the players.
Yeah.
I want you guys to continue. I have to go do something, but you guys can finish this part of the conversation and talk about this press conference, and then we save the Chelsea Everton game and how cocky Potter. Like I want to know, when I listen to this later, Neil, how the fan base is feeling about cocky Potter. During the week, Potter wins 3 games, then has a press conference, curses for the first time in public, and says, we're going to win the fucking Champions League. And then the Champions League says, oh yeah, and they have a draw, and they give him Real Madrid. And it's like, man, I shouldn't have opened my mouth. And then, first of all, to beat Real Madrid, you got to be able to beat Everton, which he wasn't able to do this week, at home, at Chelsea. So, but you guys finish this. Thanks, everybody. Continue to listen. I'm actually upset that I can't stay for the end of this, and Lee is now the host. Peace, y'all.
All right.
Cheers, Ian.
All right. Cheers, Ian.
So just a quick one to your point, Martin, about us as well. Like, we've won 6 games this season, 2 against Chelsea, 2 against Leicester, so that's not a big team. 1 against Bournemouth as well. So again, not a big team. So we can beat some of the teams. We're just too inconsistent against everyone, because there's been some big teams that we've been.
You got points from United. You got points from Chelsea and Tottenham, right?
No, we beat City in the cup, but I say, we've taken points off. We've taken 6 points off Leicester. We've taken 3 points off Bournemouth. We've beaten some shit teams as well. But the problem is we're just wildly inconsistent against everyone. Because we've also played some big teams and rolled over and done nothing in those as well. So Yeah, but I mean, like I said, I'll take the draw against you guys. It was a point that keeps
well
us in that.
No penalty, but still well deserved. I mean, the result says what happened on the pitch, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, to be 3-1 up though is disappointing if you throw that away. And I agree, the penalty was very dubious. It was one of those ones where if it was given against my team, I would be annoyed because he's going to clear the ball, the player's blindsided him and just taken the hit. So it is what it is. But it keeps us in touch with the group. We're only 4 points off 12th, which is insane that's how tight the league is down there. And also insane that we've been so bad this season, yet we still have a chance. Teams just keep taking points off each other. Leeds obviously took points off Wolves, so yeah, we've covered that one. But we're only pretty much left with Chelsea to go after now on this episode. So I don't know if you want to.
Let me ask you this, Neil. You refresh my memory, because I made a point that Conte at every club at some point he was bashing the players. He did it at Chelsea too, right? There was a moment when he had some media performances where he was talking some smack about players, right?
Not just players, like he fell out on the board. He obviously spoke about the mentality of the players, and then he literally fell out with everybody. Like the players didn't like him, the manager, the board didn't like him. And he essentially started doing things very similar to what he's doing now, where he was literally asking to be sacked. He basically started choosing lineups that are self-sabotage. So he's had a history of, Conte is a great manager to have when things are going well. When things go bad, he can quickly throw everybody under the bus. It's just that I think he went even. He outdid himself with that press conference. Like usually it's been like one line here or one line there, but a little subtle. But like amount of explicit stuff he said in this press conference, I think that was like, whoa, that's even for Antonio Conte, that's a little too much. And I feel like you can go after the players. Like here's the thing. You can go after the players if you want to get a reaction from them that helps you, right? Like Mourinho used to do a lot, like Guardiola has been doing recently. But that only works if you already have buy-in from those players. Like Conte, like it's not like he's got the complete trust, like these players are going to run through a wall for him. And therefore, if he shows some tough love, it's going to be fine. I don't think that's going to work that way.
But you know what I think? I think because Conte has this, and some people have it. It's a character thing, Like I know some people who are like that, who roll like that. I think he takes things personally with certain people, and he just focuses on someone, and he gets into those like quarrels and this passive aggressive thing with a specific player or players. And I think there's a thing going on between him and Richarlison. And when he was saying that rant at the conference about the players, I think a lot of that was directed at Richarlison, because Richarlison questioned him publicly too. So I think I feel like that was the trigger for him to go, and then he went deeper, right? But I think he aimed at Richarlison at the very beginning of the rant.
I think once all of this is done and Conte has left Tottenham, you'll see a lot of players coming out with some very, very murky details. But because that's exactly what's happened at some of his previous clubs. And I agree with you. Like that is Conte. That's a personality trait, and I think that's probably the thing that has kept him from being genuinely in the Guardiola, Klopp, Mourinho category of absolute world-class, top 2 or 3 best in the world category. Because just as a coach, I think he's very elite. It's just that some of his man management, some of his personality traits hold him back.
Yeah. Because overall, he's not doing a bad job. 4th last season was still. We can finish 4th, we can finish 5th, we can finish 6th. We'll see. But it's not like a horrible season. Like when we finished 8th under Mourinho.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, did he make as much progress as we hoped for? Probably not. But still, he made a progress. I mean, he did comparing to his predecessors. It's not the top Pochettino level.
Yeah, I mean, you're still in the top 4. You're still one of the favorites to be top 4.
The problem is that, how inconsistent this team is, and there is a lot of overreaction based on that, because we technically we won against City, we technically beat Chelsea, but then we lost against Wolves. Then we draw it with Southampton, and so it's almost impossible to predict what type of team will show up on any given night, and even during the game, the team shows different faces during the game. There are moments like, wow, this is great. And then there are moments where this is horrific. And he does change the lineup all the time. And that actually, I don't like at all that he does that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that Southampton got a point, because I want them to stay up. So at least that we are helping. Me and Neil are helping you, Lee.
We're helping so much, Lee.
Well, Spurs only giving us a point. I mean, you've given us 6-0. You're the most generous. But I mean, you're also giving points to our rivals, though. That probably should take us on to the next point of action, which is your game against Everton. How are you feeling after that?
I mean, the way like the last few games has gone, it's a little surprising, because we should have probably shown a little more control, but we've had spells of lack of control in the previous games too. It's just that we've always managed to escape those 10-minute, 15-minute periods and then come back into a period of control ourselves and manage to nick a goal here and there. It's just that didn't happen for some reason. I don't know why Potter's doing it. So Potter made a whole bunch of mistakes, right? Like he did an interview in the middle of the week talking about how he was asked essentially about Havertz, what's his best position. And I think in the last 3 games, what has happened is Havertz is not playing as a striker anymore. He's playing behind the striker. So Sterling played as the central forward. And then Mudryk played that one game. Felix played that one game. And that has been going well. For some reason, this game, he puts Havertz back. Like in the same week where you've essentially on record admitted that this guy can't do the job. There. He again plays him as a striker. And he was looking very patchy from the beginning itself. I think we had a good period in the middle of the first half, and right at the beginning of the second half when we scored. But we didn't look like, we were less fluid than the previous games. And this time when we scored that goal, Felix finally, it looked like he was going to hit the post again. If you see his shot, it touches the inside of the post and rolls back in. I thought it was going to be his 5th hit of the post since he's come in. But the moment we got the goal, Potter does this thing where he gets Conor Gallagher in, takes Pulisic off, and just sits back. Like you're playing Everton, and you just have a 1-goal lead. Who do you think you are? You're not, Jose Mourinho with that famous Chelsea side who can defend any lead against any team. He sits back, invites pressure, and that's where the 2 goals come from. The first goal comes from a set piece by inviting a lot of pressure. The second goal, again, we get the penalty, we score, and instead of backing the way we play, Kepa does, building up from the back. I think there are instructions to just hit it long. And this team is not built to play that way. But we are trying to force this team to play in a way, in a very, struggling, suffering, agricultural kind of way. And we just fail each time. So I think Potter definitely, like his game management was horrible in this game. And we let essentially Everton run that second half, and that's where the goals came from.
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised by the second goal as well, like because Koulibaly's an experienced
and he's in form finally.
International defender, but Ellis Sims just made him look like an amateur at that point. And good finish as well, to be fair. But yeah, I wasn't happy that you guys gave one of our rivals
like a couple of years back, I remember following Chelsea youth team, and Sims used to keep propping up here and there in the for the academy teams, and he'd score a lot of goals. I think it was the same year that Mason Greenwood broke through.
He's a powerful dude.
He's a proper talent.
I was especially disappointed with your performance as well, though, because I had I used a free hit in fantasy football, and I brought in Kepa and I brought in Chilwell because I thought, Chelsea will they've been solid recently. They'll maybe keep a clean sheet against a poor Everton team who don't play with a striker in this game. I did also bring Havertz in. He got me a goal, so there's that. But I was expecting more out of Chilwell and Kepa in this one, unfortunately.
But you had a very good week. I had a terrible week. You had a very good week in fantasy league.
Yeah, I made up a few points. I'm into the top 10 now. So, like I say, I used the free hit wisely. I've still got all the other bonus chips available. Still got wild card and bench boost and all of those, and triple captain still to play. So, my team reverts back. But yeah, I just brought in everyone who had games this weekend because I had a few that were playing in the FA Cup. Although I made the worst decision I made, if we're on fantasy football now, is up until Friday, I had Saka as my captain. And then I thought, I've got a lot of Arsenal players. What if Arsenal don't play well in this game? Vieira's been fired, so who knows? They might end up going and playing well there, Palace. So I gave my captaincy to Ollie Watkins instead, who he got an assist. He got 10 points with the captaincy, but Saka would have got me 36. So I'm very upset about that. I had Saka as captain and then decided to change it. I put Pedro. I had Pedro Porro on my bench, and he obviously scored against us. He got 7 points, which is more than the rest of my defenders. I also had Tyrone Mings on the bench, who got 12 points. So I had a ton of points on my bench. But just looking at the league, Joachim Henriksen is number 1 at the moment. So congrats to him. Martin, you're slipping. You're down to 3rd.
Yep. Yeah, I had a very bad week. I only had like 30 points.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you had Kane captain. He got his goal, and you had Jensen for Brentford, who popped up with their goal.
I used all my bonuses, like the free hits and stuff, and I only had 6 players playing in this. So yeah, the rest didn't play, unfortunately. So I made it.
Yeah, I think that's the same for a lot of people as well, though. It seems like a lot of people didn't play a chip for this game week and just took the hit and had like 4 or 5 players in their team, or some had a few more, some had a few less. So I decided to capitalize on that one. But I'm up to 8th. You're 3rd. You're still 59 points ahead of me. So I need a few good weeks and you need a few bad weeks for me to try and close that gap, which probably won't happen. Neil, you're 30th out of 34. But Ian is 32nd out of 34. So
I'll take that.
He's propping it up at the moment. But yeah, congrats to Joachim Henriksen, who's number 1. That's where we are with the fantasy football. I don't know if you guys have got anything else you want to discuss. If did anyone watch the Classico tonight?
I haven't watched it. I heard that Lewandowski had a nice assist at the end.
Of course, Martin gets the Polish news.
I just got the goals, so. Yeah, seemed like, well, I guess the takeaway is that the league is done there, right? Like, I think that should be it.
12 points now.
12 points, yeah.
But Neil, I forgot because you weren't here when I mentioned that. Like, what do you think about the rumor that Tuchel might replace Conte at Spurs? What would you?
Exactly the same.
What would you think?
Exactly the same that I thought of when there was a rumor that Conte might go to Spurs. That it shouldn't happen. It'll be really silly of Conte to take it, and he took it, and it hasn't gone well. He's on the verge of having an absolute meltdown. And I like Tuchel, so I hope he doesn't take it. But
you think he'll be better than Conte for us? What do you think?
Oh yeah. I think Tuchel is a far more composed and balanced. This is one of the things that I used to like about him. Like when you hear him in press conferences or interviews, a lot of managers, I feel these days, like every statement has to be a line from a movie almost. Tuchel's not like that. Like Tuchel's pretty level-headed. He's just talking normal sentences to people. So yeah, I think he's pretty from man management point of view. I think he's pretty good. But yeah, I feel he can get like the best jobs available. Like, so I definitely don't think he should be going for the Spurs job. But hey, you never know.
Apparently he's a Spurs fan.
Yeah. He has said, like, when he joined Chelsea, somebody, how the media like to do it, right? They brought us some 10-year-old interview of his where he says, in the Premier League, I watched Tottenham. And then he was asked about it at the Chelsea, his Chelsea manager. He's like, when you're growing up and you're in you're not in the country, like, so you're looking at a foreign country's league. Tottenham was one of the, unique names that to a German-speaking tongue, it sounded pretty cool. So yeah, I started watching Tottenham. So.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it'd be an interesting one. Like I said in the chat earlier, it's kind of, it'll be another battle between what's stronger, a manager who's a winner or just Spursiness, because it's it infects the best of them. This is when Conte goes in the summer, this will be like the first club he's not won something for, I think, in a long time, probably since he was Italy manager, maybe. And obviously it's way harder as an international manager to win anything. But yeah, just going back to the Clasico, I watched some of the game live, and I've seen the goals as well. And yeah, just interesting one. I think Barca deserved the win. They created a lot of chances in that game. The Real Madrid goal was a bit of a freak goal. A cross tried to go in and Araujo headed it past his own keeper from a really weird angle. And then they came back and sort of hauled themselves back into the game, and Kessie got the late winner, so a bit of drama there. Barca can thank me as well for going to the new camp on Friday, sprinkling a bit of good luck on them. But it was interesting being around the stadium as the build up to the Clasico was going on. Lots of signs being put up and stuff, so that was definitely an interesting result. But I mean, it all comes to the backdrop of Barca being accused of paying off referees and VAR officials and stuff as well. So a little bit of a sour note to that one. It sort of had a bit of a bitter build up as well. A lot of stuff in the media about it. But another big one as well. I don't know if anyone's seen in Ligue 1 as well. PSG lost at home to Rennes. Which
Bayern
was
also lost, and they're actually down to second place right now in Germany.
Yeah, Dortmund top of the league. So yeah, I mean PSG, they're 16 points above Rennes in the table, and they're 7 points ahead of Marseille in second. So I don't think they're going to blow that one. It's just a blip for them. But obviously they're out the Champions League, so that's all they've got to focus on now. Whereas Bayern, they got City in the next round. Me and Ian spoke about that sort of briefly earlier. But yeah, it's dropping points. Leverkusen are a good team as well. It's it wasn't an easy game for them. They're a bit lower in the table, Leverkusen, but they've got Xabi Alonso, I think, is the manager still there, who's quite highly rated. But yeah, Bayern, they're only 1 point behind Dortmund, so it'll be a real tense, interesting end to the season in Germany with those two battling it out. One of the big stories in Italy, Pioli, who's the AC Milan manager, is under pressure as well for losing. They lost to Udinese at the weekend, which is not leaving them in a good position. Although Ibrahimovic became the oldest ever goal scorer in Serie A, 41 years old and 166 days.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's just insane longevity. And I quite like that there's still players out there though at the top level scoring goals and doing things that are younger than me. That are older than me.
So there's still
not even still hope, but it just makes me feel slightly young still. Because once you get to the point where like you're older than all the players, it's like, starts making you feel old. But I mean, yeah, he's out there still doing it. But they're fourth in the league though, on 48 points, and Napoli are top on 71. Napoli are almost 20 points ahead of Lazio in second.
And they still can win the Champions League too.
Yeah, just an incredible season for those guys. Yeah, Lazio on 52 points and Napoli on 71. So that's it's pretty crazy. And there was a bunch of red cards in the Rome derby as well. And Lazio beat Roma 1-0. So yeah, there was 2 players sent off in the 97th minute and 1 sent off in the 32nd minute. And into Juve, got some red cards there also late on. 1-0 win for Juve against Inter. So yeah, lots happening around Europe as well. But yeah, if anyone's got anything to round off with, we'll finish it there. We've covered the whole Premier League stuff and a little bit around Europe as well now.
Yeah, I think that the last thing would be, I think the MLS, the team that is a new team, St. Louis, is the first team ever that as a new team won first 5 games of the season. So there's that story in the MLS. And Thiago Almada scored another 2 goals. He seems like by far the best player in the league. And I would say, look at him. He's the World Cup winner with Argentina, which we said on the podcast several times. But it feels like the time he's coming to a good European club is pretty soon, and we might see him even in the Premier League. Who knows?
Mm. And yeah, like shout out to St. Louis as well, because they're I've seen like pictures from their stadium, and they're getting a lot of fans in already. Like people are really buying into the project there, and like you say, the amount of games they've won straight off the bat is pretty incredible as well. And yeah, they're dominating the Western Conference, and Atlanta, I think, are top of the other one. So that's which one do they count as? Yeah, I always find it weird that Atlanta count as the Eastern Conference, but I guess they have to balance the teams out some way. Kind of in the middle, but yeah, it's LAFC 2 wins out of 3 as well. So have a look here.
Yeah, the most baffling to me, and it's just not only MLS but also NBA, is Minnesota being in the Western Conference, which makes absolutely no sense from the geographic standpoint.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they if the expansion. I know they're trying to obviously keep it like similar to, like the NBA where you have East and Western, but I don't know if it expands even bigger, whether or not they'll maybe regionalize it even more. Because you can almost have like a Western Conference, like a Midwest section, a Southern section, and an Eastern section. Maybe, I don't know if they want to break it up even more. But I don't know how that would feed into the playoffs and whatnot. But yeah, MLS thriving right now with the amount of teams. I think it's only a good thing to see all these expansion teams as well, with the size that the league used to be to what it is now, and the professionalism and the amount of people that it's exposing the game to. Because I know traditionally it's not obviously the biggest sport there, but the amount of people that are from that have heritage, parentally or grandparents or whoever from nations that are football crazy, there's a lot of it there. So I think more and more people will buy into it and become interested in it, which is only a good thing, because I think it's still one of the biggest games participation wise in the US. But the fact that there's a pro team in most cities now is only a good thing.
Yeah. One thing I also forgot, what's last thing about the Premier League is Jakub Kiwior, the Polish defender that Arsenal bought from Spezia, from Serie A, made his Premier League debut this week, and he played in the Conference League as well. So he played 2 games in a row for Arsenal now, and he's the prospect. They paid 30 mil for him, and he'll play now for Poland. Poland has like 2 very important games right at the bat with new manager, with Fernando Santos. We play in Prague against Czech Republic, and then we play Albania. So 2 best teams in the group at the start of the qualification. And with a new manager, a new team, where he didn't call some older players, like he didn't call Milik, he didn't call Glick, he didn't call Krychowiak. So he's going to play a young team, and Lewandowski and Szczesny. So interesting.
Yeah, international break is coming up, so that's a good point to mention that. I'm still bitter about the England team, Ward-Prowse not being picked, because Calvin Phillips got in and he's played barely any minutes this season at all, and not even that well when he has played for City. And Ward-Prowse, I posted a stat in our group chat the other day that he's ran the most of any centre midfielder in the Premier League this season, and he can score goals. So I wouldn't expect him to start for England, but I'd have thought he'd be worthy of a place in the squad, given that he's carrying a team and being a leader. But Southgate's Southgate, so he makes his decisions. I'm sure he'll be fine though. These are these Euro qualifiers.
Yep.
These games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who comes through those. Even though the Euro qualifiers, they all feel like friendlies, even the qualifiers. So a lot of these games, to be honest. And it's just an impediment
from the group qualifier at this point. So
yeah, and it's just an impediment to getting back to Premier League football, to be honest. Which is what annoys me, because everyone wants to get back to that, especially after a weekend like this where there's been so much entertainment. But that's where we are. But yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back during the week to catch up on the international stuff and see what's going on. See if Conte's still Tottenham manager by that point as well. He's trying his best. He's trying his best not to be. He wants to get out, but we'll see. But no, yes. Cheers, guys, for joining. Thank you for coming on and making time. And yeah, we'll catch you guys all next week.
All right.
Cheers.
See you.
Ciao.